May 5th, 1997, Monika Rizzo left her job at San Antonio Human Resources without saying a word to anybody. Went home, apparently. Her husband, Leonard Rizzo, later said that she did come home, but a week later she disappeared. And that started a huge mystery about the disappearance of Monika Rizzo. Monika Rizzo was born in 1953 in Germany. Later met Leonard Rizzo and became his wife. Her disappearance in 1997 sparked a lot of controversy, and we're going to dive into that controversy in just a moment. On June 5th, police received an anonymous tip that Monika had been murdered by her husband. They dispatched officers to their house, served a warrant, turned up nothing. The police arrived at the house. Their son, Leonardo, answered the door, saying that he hadn't seen his mother for a week and that he was just visiting. 5 weeks later, July 5th, they received another tip telling exactly where her bones were buried, in the backyard, underneath a tire by the fence. They brought in another warrant, they checked, and sure enough, they found the bones. They found a bag containing something that looked like flesh. An archaeologist came up, dug up the place, found bones, but the DNA test that they did said that those bones belonged to 4 different people. You find the bones of 4 different people in a house, chances are you're going to be arrested. Not Leonard, though. Leonard said, I don't know how those bones got back there. Someone's out to get me. And apparently that was enough for them to say, okay. Just never arrested him. He was never charged with her murder, ever. But right now, let's show you that house that they went to. And this, ladies and gentlemen, was the last known residence of Monika Rizzo. It was this backyard where they found her bones, her flesh, and again, he was never arrested for it or charged for it because they didn't have enough evidence to link him to it, if you can believe that. This is the backyard where they found her bones, next to the fence, under a tire. I, for fear of being caught, do not want to lift this camera over the fence. Where exactly by the fence did they find them? I'm not sure. They're under a tire by the fence. More than likely at this corner of the fence. That was pretty amazing, for lack of a better word. I mean, you always hear about these cases, and every time we get to follow the path of what happened, it makes it even more real, if that makes any sense.
For me, it really makes this process a lot harder. Like, I go into it and I'm thinking, okay, it's one of the things we do, and then we get there and I have all these feelings. Again, the feeling of excitement that I'm going to meet somebody new, but then, like we were talking, when we get there, that person's no longer with us and I can't actually touch them or shake their hand or tell them.
And when you think of how they met their demise, it's emotionally draining. You think, oh man, nobody deserves that.
Right.
Except maybe the people that brought them to that point. But that's not for us to say. But yeah, her husband, he was just chock full of inconsistencies. He, at one point, I believe he tried to blame a motorcycle gang for what happened. For some reason, he had a motorcycle gang at his house for one point or another. I'm not sure why, but he tried to pin it on them, say they had something to do with it. And even that, you would think, if they were a notorious motorcycle gang, they would have aced him out for talking that kind of stuff. But no, Mr. Untouchable Leonard. Some of the stuff we have printed out here, where Leonard claimed he had no idea how the bones got in the backyard. He said, "These bone fragments that are in my yard are an absolute mystery to me. As big a mystery as my wife's disappearance. To me, someone is trying to draw attention from themselves. Someone is doing this to me."
scripted much.
Yeah, exactly. It just sounds very dramatic. It doesn't sound like it's from the heart. It sounds like it's something he had planned in his head to say if he got questioned. Her co-workers were worried about her. They said that she looked abused. She was showing up with bruises and she was losing a lot of weight. He claimed there was no domestic abuse. There was no domestic violence. My wife and I were deeply in love. We are deeply in love. You see how he had to correct himself from saying we were deeply in love.
You know, and something that we talked about earlier was her appearance. She looks very timid. She looks like and that's not meaning that she was, because I didn't personally know her, but from looking at her, it looks like she was very timid. She was probably easily swayed, and from the way he's talking and the way, you know, the things are written down, he seems like he could have been very charming and very persuasive.
Sure.
And he was probably used to that. And then once you get caught and you're trying to pull that same shit with the cops or people who know this kind of skill,
yeah,
that shit don't fly.
Right. But apparently it flew just enough, because to this day he's never been charged with anything. The district attorney has never come out with enough evidence to pin it on him. I've seen people tried and convicted on much less. There wasn't even any body and they were able to convict somebody. But him, bones in the backyard. And nothing. The only thing he's ever been convicted of was, what was it? I believe it was assault. He beat up his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And he pointed a gun at an officer. And he was shot for that, but he survived. Yes, after 2 years of new developments, Leonard Rizzo was arrested for attacking his girlfriend. He was convicted on 4 criminal counts, including assault with a deadly weapon and kidnapping. That's it. And obviously he has the capacity to abuse. He has the capacity to be violent. But they don't put 2 and 2 together. So on Monika's death, he remains a free man. No charges ever filed on him. What do you think about that?
It upsets me because I get what you're trying to do. If you try him and he's found not guilty, he can't be retried, right? So they're kind of wanting to leave that open. But there was so much. Like you said, there's people that get, you know, sentenced for less. For me, that would be enough. If I was a juror in that courtroom, I'd be like, how did those fragments get in your backyard? And they were like all the same size, like uniform size. How did that happen? And if you're gonna kill somebody and chop them up into little pieces, why are you gonna throw it in your own backyard?
Exactly. It's kind of like, to me, it's like returning to the scene of the crime. Yeah, I think he got off to knowing that she was back there. They had that kind of power to take her life from her. That's just speculation, of course. I know in the judicial system you have to have rock solid evidence. You can't go with common sense. You can't. You got to go with what you can prove. But some of this stuff is so weak. When they questioned Leonard Rizzo about the bones and stuff and how they were cut, like Maddie said, into precise pieces, they said it must have been some kind of machine, a wood chipper more than likely. He says, I've never even operated a wood chipper. I've never rented anything in a rental store other than a car dolly, maybe a trailer. And that was enough? That was something, oh, okay, well, you've never operated one. Okay, then it must not be you. What? Look, man, you got a pile of bones and flesh in your backyard. I don't care if you say you've never operated one. Obviously, somebody operated the damn thing, and you know who did it.
Well, the even sicker part is you got all these bone fragments all over the yard and a bag of flesh.
Yes, there was flesh. A
bag of flesh. Now, how? Did you debone the bone and then shred it in a shredder? Did you
put it through full on and then just pick up the flesh that was on the ground?
How does that happen? There has to be some kind of lunatic mind that would do that.
Yeah. I don't know. If I were even to have the capacity to do those kinds of things, I don't think I'd think about picking up the flesh. The bones, yes. The flesh, probably not. That's how they would catch me. He went on to say, the bone fragments and such, where they came from, I don't know how they got there. I don't know. And I adamantly did not kill them or anyone else. Who's them?
Right.
Is he talking about the bones? Like each individual piece? Or is he talking about more than one person?
Right.
Because originally the DNA evidence said that there were bones of 4 people. Now, if you're wondering how he got away with most of this for all his life, for the rest of his life, it's because it was a slipshod investigation. The DNA said it was 4 people. Then later they found out all the bones belonged to Monika. How do you mistake bone fragments for 4 people? And even then, if it's 4 people, you got 4 people in his backyard. How do you just go, he said he didn't do it. Mr. didn't do nothing.
I know in one part of our conversation you mentioned the description of the feeling of the bones.
Ah, yes, the archaeologist, when he dug up the bones, he said when you go on an archaeological dig, the bones are dry. But these bones had a greasy feel to them, which meant they hadn't been there that long. But they'd been there at least a week or 2 because there was no soft flesh attached to the bones. Yeah, it was all in a bag.
And her son, he was there. The police come by and question, and he says, I'm just visiting. I haven't seen my mama.
Yeah, in a week. He hadn't seen her.
Do you think he could have been in on it? Do you think she was being held there for the bones to, because they didn't find the bones till way after that 1 week that he said.
Yeah, it was like 5 weeks later.
Right, and she was reported missing in May.
Now, some people might think that the son was in on it, and other people think that he's the one who made the call. Like maybe he knew what his dad had done, and he wanted to make sure that his dad paid for it. Missing. Monika wasn't declared legally dead until 2 years later, 1999. But on her gravestone, which you will see soon, they have it as the year she disappeared, 1997. So.
Well, hold on to your hats, ladies and gentlemen, because you're going to get even more upset. Because I know I was. Leonard's name is on, which is the man who is accused, I'm accusing of killing.
Supposedly.
Miss Rizzo is on the tombstone along with Monika Rizzo, which has not been used yet, so because he has not passed, but he will be buried with Monika Rizzo and their son.
Yeah, their son is in the grave next to him, and she's in this one grave, and his name is right above hers on the stone, which we'll also see in just a moment. But yeah, it's like the only way she could escape this lunatic was through death, and now she's going to be buried with him too. Adding insult to injury, if you ask me. I'm surprised her parents didn't speak up on that one. Now, usually when there's a murder, there's a motive. And we were talking about this earlier. What was his motive, other than he's abusive and he's narcissistic, he's a sociopath? Well, turns out that the life insurance policy that Monika had, he told her dad that it was a $10,000 policy. Like, why would anybody kill someone for $10,000? It's not a lot of money. But the father found out later it was $110,000. Still not worth it to me to kill someone, but to somebody like him, could be. So there's your motive. Bones in the backyard, you got a motive. And he has a history of abuse, or at least it appeared he had a history of abuse. And I can't believe that he wasn't held, at least arrested and taken in and given the 3rd degree. No, never happened.
That just leads me to be curious. Were there people he knew that could chop up the body in some kind of contraption that would make them that size? But if you did do it somewhere else, why would you come, bring them home, and spread them in your own backyard? That still just boggles my brain.
Yeah, we passed by many pieces of property. We're in one right now that you could very easily hide remains. You could spread them all throughout these woods, and animal might eat them, might dig up a bone, but most people looking at those little fragments are not going to think, oh, that's a person.
Right.
So why bring them back? And the only thing that makes sense to me is if he's telling the truth, somebody set him up and put that evidence there. Or he's so narcissistic and such a sociopath that he enjoyed knowing that he took her life and that his little trophy, if you will, was in the backyard.
Right. Oh, that was really a really hard case. I mean, we've been working on this one for a minute, but just seeing the driveway that she went home and she never left, the door she went in, you know, the backyard where they, you know, cops are digging through the dirt just to find some kind of evidence.
When I saw the backyard, I thought about the orange flags that they
Right.
had all over the place, everywhere they found bones. They said it was covered in orange flags. So, which is strange to me, because that means that they weren't all in one area. They didn't just throw them in one spot. They were kind of spread out there. It almost sounds like somebody threw them over the fence.
Maybe because you could. The way the house is set up, you could just throw them over the fence.
Yeah, there's a street back there that you saw from the fence area. There's nothing there. Nobody's around there except for a place on the corner. Go there at night, you could get away with it. There's a door back there. There's a gate to go in. If it's not secured, you could just walk in there and do something. But I'm not trying to prove this man's innocence. I'm set and determined that he had everything to
Right.
do with this.
And I know you had mentioned that, you know, the neighbors, they would have heard some kind of, you know, wood chipper.
Sure, those things are not quiet at all. So it had to have been done somewhere else. If they used a wood chipper, it had to be done somewhere else. Now, like Maddie said, did he know the person who owned it? Were they in on it? Are they the ones that called the cops? Maybe he threatened them to keep them quiet, and then after he was gone, he's like, oh, no, I'm calling the police.
Right, because, I mean, somebody's got to know something somewhere. And someone's got to have a guilty conscience somewhere in this mix.
Yeah.
So.
Definitely. Well, let's say a final farewell to Monika Rizzo and look upon her grave and wish her peace one day. Wish her peace, because that's all we can do at this point. Her and her son. It's been 27 years since Monika Rizzo's death, and to this day, her husband walks free. There have been no leads. Nobody's been arrested or charged. So this goes on to be a long-standing mystery in the San Antonio area. All we know is she rests here now with her son, Leonardo Anthony, who died a year after her disappearance from leukemia. If there's any bright side to this story, it's the fact she was spared watching her son die. I hope they both rest in peace. But as they say, no justice, no peace. So until justice is served for Monika Rizzo, she will not rest in peace.